Hello, hello, hello. Hey, everybody. Happy Boxing Day. Hope you all had a great holiday. If you don't celebrate Christmas and you celebrate Hanukkah, hope you had a nice Hanukkah season. Whether you celebrate or not, yesterday you probably had a nice quiet day, right? So, we had a nice quiet day around here, just us, slept in, had a nice breakfast, opened a couple of presents, and then, opened our stockings, and then we just goofed off the rest of the day. I stayed in my pajamas till like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Hey, it's Christmas, right? So anyways, if you don't know me, I'm Paula Montgomery from Desert Cat Creations, and I want to thank you for joining me today. Normally I'm on Thursday, but you know, yesterday was the holiday, so I decided to wait until today. So today we are going to make our week 51 design, which is a friendship bracelet. So I'm going to jump right in because that takes a while, and we'll talk about why I chose what I chose for the components. If you haven't already, just realize that it's very helpful and free to me if you can like and follow this video, or like this video and like and follow Desert Cat Creations on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube. After 30 days, all the videos are only available on YouTube, okay? I am still playing with the ability to broadcast simultaneously, but that's going to be our effort for the new year, and I want to thank all of you who did subscribe for helping me out so that I will be able to do lives on YouTube. But anyways, let's get this flipped over and see what we come up with today, all right? So, let's review what has to be in our design. You'll see I have a couple things out here on my work surface. So we have to make a friendship bracelet. So what constitutes a friendship bracelet? I honestly think it's anything that you want, that you would give a friend, right? So you can make whatever you want. I think if you look up the definition, it might be, you know, you find a lot of ones that use macrame. But I think like the bracelets with the letters, you know, that were very popular last year during the Taylor Swift's concerts and all, or 2 years ago, I guess. Those are also being given as friendship bracelets, but we're going to do a macrame version today. So it's going to take us a few minutes to get started, but then we have to use chunky 10mm or larger beads in our design. So I've got a couple of large beads here. I have some tubes, and I have a large black pearl. So I'm going to set down those because they are playing double duty, right? All right, then we need sea glass. So I have some sea glass beads here. We're not going to use all of them, but these are fake sea glass, obviously. But, you know, it's sold as fake sea glass. And we're going to use some of these. I'm using a large hole beads because I got to put them on leather, okay? So there's that. So we have that filled. We have to use black in our design. So that's the second reason why I'm using this large black pearl. And I'm going to use some black leather, okay? And then we have to do something inspired by a mermaid, all right? So that's why I said things work double duty here. So these beads have a sheen on them that I think, you know, kind of reminds me of, you know, the shininess that a lot of the mermaid tails would have. I also am using, you know, some sea themed things. I have a sand dollar button. This is a tiara cast button that I've had in my stash for a while. And then I am going to use either this kind of aqua or blue wax linen, because we're going to do our knotting with that. Okay. So the colors and some of the textures are coming from that. I also pulled up another one of our these mermaid tails. We used one in our keychain recently. So I may attach that on there as well. But anyways, that's our mermaid inspiration. And just remember, you know, when you're using these challenge cards, you know, when it says inspired, that could be in colors, that could be actually using a mermaid design, it could be using mermaid beads. So, you know, just anything that you can think of when you think of a mermaid. So, all right, let's set those aside. Right, you know, thanks. I'll look forward to seeing you on the replay. Anyways, so since we're doing macrame today, I got my little macrame board out just because it makes life a little simpler. I am going to use a button. Now, since my leather's not doing any of the knotting except right around the button and for the closure, I don't have to have an extremely long piece, but you know, I need it long enough that I can tuck it in this board. So I think we'll, what's that, 10 inches? Yeah. So we're going to do about, so, you know, if you're doing, you know, once around your wrist, plus you need to do a few knots, I'd say we need to do, let's do 24 inches just to be safe on this leather, okay? Although, well, wait, no. I'm going to do, so I typically, my wrist, you know, if you, the average bracelet's around 7 inches, and then you need, I would say, an extra couple inches for the knots. So like 20 is probably okay. I think I'll go with like 22 and we'll see how that goes. All right. So I am using 1.5 millimeter leather here. And the main thing on the leather is you want it to be able to go through your button. And, you know, on these kinds of necklaces or bracelets, you can start either on, you know, some people actually do the knot first, so you have a nice clean, you know, loop to go around your button. I prefer to do the button on top. Now, I want to be able to string these beads on here, but all of them won't have big enough holes for 2 loops to go through. But, you know, maybe we'll have to lay out some designs there. Just kind of maybe alternating our beads. All right, we'll see. All right, is that going to be... All right, I think it's going to be light. So I could do a barrel knot here, or I can just do an overhand knot. I'm just going to do an overhand knot. Although, actually, I'm going to wait a minute. So the next thing we need to do is choose our color. So remember, these are our beads choices. So actually think I want to use the blue today, okay? So I was trying to think if there was a way to do both, and I probably could, but I don't think I can make it show up on there. So we're going to be tying lots of knots with this, so I would do at least 2 yards, okay? So 6 feet. Five, 6 feet. 8. And you know what, I'm just gonna pull a little extra off here just because I don't want to run out. All right. So I did learn something on at the Great Bead Extravaganza. And sorry, I'm looking. Doesn't work. All right. So when you're working with this waxed linen, if you like kind of pull it through some paper, it helps smooth it out, and you get less waxy stuff all over your fingers. We'll see how that works. All right. Okay, so the reason I wanted to go ahead and cut that is rather than tie this linen around my knot, what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull it through here as well. Oh, these are really long pieces of linen now, so. And I am just going to pull it so that it's, you know, the center is through my button. And now it's all going to get tied together. And I tie this knot. And this will just, you know, it helps hold it steady. Keeps it from, you know, possibly coming undone. Okay. Now, when you're working with a button on your macrame board, what I like to do is take a loop from another cord, and I stick that in the button, and this will just help us hold it steady while we're making our braid. Okay, we are just going to use a square knot design today. So then, you know, the nice thing is you can hold it through that. Now, if you don't have a macrame board, which I'm sure many of you don't, you can use a board, a clipboard, and put this under the clip, and then I would like tape the end down so that it's held down stiff, because it makes it a little easier to work. Okay, but let's lay out our design. So if we think about this, so we need about 6 inches of design, 6.5 maybe. All right, so we want our design to fall in here. So I am going to, you know, put a couple of these beads on here. And I'm alternating since my holes are not big enough to, we'll see how that looks. Yeah, you could also put beads on your outside cord if you want to do that. So depending on the thickness of your cord, size 8s look really good on the side of designs, okay? So then I want to use this thick, if there's any way I can get, so I was gonna say if I could get both of those through there, that would be really cool, but I don't think I can. All right, so it's just going to be on there, okay? And this may look wacky right now, but hopefully it'll straighten out. Let's see if I can. Be nice if my I could get it through there, but I can't. So, all right. So I'm just alternating because, like I said, we're gonna be wrapping this around. So I'm gonna go make the design, same design going back. Okay. Oh, I wonder. Yeah, we'll just go backwards. Okay. And either this will come out looking kind of cool, or it won't, right? So, what else do we have? We had I'm just cheating and putting these on here, and then I'll adjust them, okay? All right, so I think that, you know, that's all the beads that I wanted on here. So let me tuck this in. And so my top of my design, so it's about this 1.5, and like I said, we're gonna go about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll fill in the rest. So actually that's not too bad. I mean, these are gonna have to be separated a little more because we're basically going to put a knot between each of them. All right, so, and I want this to end up somewhat in the middle. So if I assume that's starting at 1.5, it needs to be at about 4.5, okay? All right, we'll see how this goes, all right? So when you're doing this, you want to tie it around both sides. So Kelly Sutton at Kelly's Bead Boutique, she says to think about P's and Q's, okay? So I'm making like a P here, right? And then that one, the long end is going to go underneath, and we are going to pull it up, all right? And then the next is the Q, so it's on the other side. And you pull it under and through. Okay. Now, if you keep doing down one side, what you're going to get is a twist. By doing P's and Q's, you get a flat braid, okay? So that's the biggest difference between those two designs. Let me do one more, and then I'll kind of show you. And then you just have to remember to keep going back and forth, right? And, you know, if you make a mistake here or there, do like the same one twice. It's not the end of the world, because, you know, it'll adjust. But let's see if I can zoom in more without... So that's what it ends up looking like, right? So we'll have to, like I said, what I want to do is about a ½ inch of this before I start going around the beads. And, you know, it is hard at first because you got these long pieces of cord. So remember, you go over and under. And then you're going over and under the opposite way, all right? And this is a little easier to do if you don't have the beads sticking out there, but we'll you know, the beads are going to be a fun part of our design. All right. And again, I may have messed one up. You have to spend a little, pay a little attention to keep track of where you are. So we'll have to see where, you know, how far we want. I'd say we want to keep going for a little while here. A couple more rounds. All right. All right. So I know it's a lot of repetitive stuff here. I may have done two of the same right in a row. But, you know, if you only do that a couple times, it'll be okay. All right. And you want to make sure you kind of pull this tight, but not so tight that it squeezes the leather. You kind of want the leather to stay flat, or at least that's kind of the design I want, okay? All right, now I'm going to slide one bead up. And we are going to do our P, and then you're just going to put it around there, around the side of the bead, okay? And then So you want to do a full P and Q here. All right. And then we're going to slide that next one down. Be much easier if I didn't have stuff all over my desk, huh? All right, so we did the P and the Q. Sometimes I find it's actually easier to do this with the beads. All right, then I move the next bead down. Now you could put more space in between the beads if you wanted to. I'm choosing not to today, but that one, I think I'm going to tighten that one up a little more. Now, you know, check the tightness as you're going, because it's gonna be harder the further you get away from where you did your knot, okay? But let's see, I almost did it again. All right, let me grab the edges. What do you think? Does that just kind of a fun alternating design there? Now, you know, I probably should have. Oh, I was like, why am I missing a bead? There we go. Because it's hiding. All right. So we are just going to go. Now, see, this one is, you know, the larger bead, so you'll be going around it. I suppose, you know what, we could try. How about if we just do our wrapping around this one side. So we don't have so much, you know, black leather just sitting there. Remember, we're just doing P's and Q's here. So make sure you don't tighten it too much before you get your end pulled out. All right, one more. Then we're gonna go back around both, okay? So all right. I'll be okay here. All right, let's do our B. And then our Q. All right. Now, get this guy. And this is ending up a little further down than I had intended, but that's all right. We'll just make this end a little shorter, right? All right. There's our P and our Q. And we're just gonna wrap this one again because we did that on the last side. All right. And this time I am going to take this back around both of them, okay? So, all right, let's do one. A P and a Q. Let's see how much shorter our stuff is now. So since I didn't pull those at the same time, it's tightening up a little differently, so have to be careful. All right. We're moving right along here. Sure, because we want to alternate these beads, so make sure you push the right one up next. Now, you know, I could have put them all on one side, but I like the look. And for that matter, you know, you don't have to use wax linen for your braiding. I just like the look of it. All right, wait, what am I doing here? All right. It comes in a variety of colors, and it lays nicely. Does get all over your fingers, but yeah, that little trick of using a piece of paper to smooth it makes it a lot more pleasant. All right, our last bead, guys. RP, and so let's check out how long our bracelet ended up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so I'm going to do maybe a 1/2 inch more, and then we'll work on finishing it off with the knots for the to go around the button. Okay. A lot easier to do this when I'm not having to go around the buttons. Now you also don't have to use leather underneath. I think it holds up a little stiffer. I don't know. I just like the way it sits on leather. You know, and another fun design, which I meant to get out a bracelet, show you guys, is you can put cup chain on these spaces and make it sparkly. All right, so I'm gonna pull this off and we'll see how long it is on my wrist, because it's either gonna be too long. So as I wrap it around, now is a good time to start our knots. So I am going to just take all of this, and we are going to make another overhand knot. I'm not worrying about making pretty knots today, okay? And this way I'm grabbing all of the material, the leather and I am gonna tighten that knot as much as I can. I don't have a whole lot left for making my loop though, do I? I think we'll have just enough. Okay. Now, the second knot, I am not putting the wax linen through. I'm going to trim that. All right, come on. Actually, yeah, I'll go ahead and trim it just so it's not in my way. All right. So I'm just going to go below this knot. And, you know, you might want to burn the edges later, but all right, I am going to force this not to happen. It's a little short, so just recall that. All right, and this shorter one is what's gonna. Right. So let's try to stick our button in there, and then we are just gonna pull these tight with that in there, right? I'm going to use my pliers to pull it tight. All right. So we have our bracelet. So I'm going to trim this one. Now, you know, I might want to add a little glue to my leather. Super glue works great on leather. That super new glue that you can get at bead shops in various places. So you can see some of my knots are not real tight, but it'll just have to work its way out. But there's our bracelet, and if we wanted to, you know, we could put that on there with a jump ring. Maybe I'll do that. Let me find a jump ring real quick that would fit. Let's see if that works. Not that my colors and bead selection don't represent the mermaid, but let's see if this may be too thick. Yep. All right, let me see what else I have in here. So that was 18 gauge. Let me see if this. All right, let me see if this goes through. What we'll do is do a 2. No, that might. All right, so I want to make sure I put it around the leather. I don't want it just on the wax linen, okay? Because then I might fall off. So, all right, that worked. All right, let me get my tools out of the way. And let's take another look at this. So we have our mermaid inspired friendship bracelet. You know, it can go either way. And it just slips right on there with the button. If I'd had more leather, I could have done a little dangle. But there we go, our mermaid inspired friendship bracelet. You know, and actually, you know, with some of this, it could look like a fishnet or something, you know. I think that's fun. All right. Week 51 complete. And Oops, I just flipped it again. There we go. All right, thanks again. That was kind of fun and different. We'll be back on Sunday to do our week 52 drawing, and then I will announce when we're going to do the project, because, I mean, I don't mind doing it New Year's Day, but New Year's Day is a whole new year, right? But, you know, it's still the same week, right? The week is starting in 2025, so we'll see how that goes. I have, I would do it on Wednesday, but I actually have an appointment in the morning. But I may still be able to do it on Wednesday, so we'll see. I have no idea what we're going to be making. And it'll be our last project for this year. So, again, week 52, drawing, noon on Sunday. I'm thinking we're going to make something sparkly because it's for New Year's week, right? So, all right. So, hopefully you all had a good holiday, got everything you asked for, or at least everything you needed, right? And I hope you all, you know, if you're traveling, stay safe. If you're staying at home, enjoy the quiet. I know there's a lot of warm weather in some places and a lot of not so warm weather in others, so hopefully you have simple traveling, getting home if you are traveling home. But anyways, I will see you on Sunday. Please like and follow Desert Cat Creations on Facebook, Instagram, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Again, all these videos, I transfer them over to YouTube, so if after 30 days you won't be able to find them on Facebook, it's a Facebook policy, but they will be available to you on our YouTube channel. All right? And thanks again for a great year and a great project, and let me know if you're watching the replay. See you soon. Bye.